My point to this is I don't care if you're a year out from retirement, you've been retired for 5 years, or you're 20 years out. The further back we can start, the better, but do not feel it's ever too late. It's never too late. Welcome back, 10 Fears of Retirement podcast. I'm Alexander Pushman, your host of this podcast, author of the book. So, Retirement Fears. Currently, we are in episode 11, chapter 10, and fear number 9. So how about that little doozy right out of the gate here? So this chapter is an important one because it's one of the most important chapters of like real life. And what I mean by that, again, I say this all the time. You're not going to read a book. You're not going to have an article. They're not going to be on CNN or Fox News talking about what I'm going to talk about in this segment. So in this episode of the podcast, I'm really going to dive into some like real world examples of, again, what the book tells me, quote unquote, of financial planning and retirement planning is much different than the real world of what I see in actual families and clients' experiences in living in retirement. Maintaining lifestyle, unexpected costs that pop up throughout retirement. So let's kind of dive into this. So first and foremost, one of the most common things I hear is, hey, Alex, when I retire, and I would call this a myth, okay, there's a lot of myths out there, I'm going to spend less in retirement. I don't think you will. And if you do, it's for a very specific financial reason. Example, I pay off the mortgage in 3 years. I had a goal that I wanted my mortgage paid off by the time I retired. I'm retiring in January and my mortgage paid off in December. Boom, you got a case. There is accuracy in that. Most people say, Alex, well, I'm not going to spend as much as I do because when I retire, I'm not going to be driving to the office. I actually think you're going to spend more. And why do I say that? Well, that's what the numbers tell me. I joke around. I always say to people, hey, I retire like 30 times a year. Because I have clients who are actually retiring, pulling the trigger, and I have to put myself in their situation and go through those financials and go through that lifestyle and go through all those goals and fears and everything else. You only get to retire one time. And so it's really important you get that correct and you have the appropriate information to make an informed choice. So this is my take on you will spend less in retirement. And again, this isn't something you can read in an article. It's not a white paper. It's not a national survey. This is with families who I've sat down with here in my office. When I look at all my clients, I'd say about 80% of them actually spend more in retirement in the first 2 to 3 years. So why do I say that? Well, think about it. You're driving to work. You don't have anything going on. And then all of a sudden, you don't have work and your job becomes what? The honey to-do list, the bucket list, upgrades on the house, okay? So there are so many things that you're doing in retirement that you didn't expect. And again, I literally just had a phone call the other day with a client, retired a week ago. First thing they're doing this week, boom, he's at home. I just got told, he goes, I've been at Home Depot every single day since I retired. He's doing the bathroom. He's getting ready to do the deck, right? Like there is so much constantly going on that he's spending more. And he goes, I'm spending a lot more than I expected. I said, good news. We planned on this. So those first 2 to 3 years, you're probably going to spend a little bit more. Yeah, it might be home improvements. If you're smart, and this is going to be one of the things I talk about, if you're planning ahead, a lot of the times I will encourage families, get these projects done before you retire. Of course, the fun stuff's going to pop up. Hey, we're going on this trip. We've been planning for 10 years and it's somewhere I've always wanted to go and it's a bucket list thing. That's great. But I'm talking about upgrading your furnace. Hey, we got to get a roof done. We know it's coming in the next 5 years. Do it while you're working if possible, right? These things that we 100% know we're going to want done. We want to upgrade the kitchen. We want to upgrade the bathrooms. We want new floors. We want to paint the whole house. If in a perfect world, you're doing it proactively, which again, I'm going to be getting to here in a second, do it while you're working. But again, those first 2 to 3 years, I see people travel more. I see them spending a little bit more because they have more time and there's more entertainment and there's more fun money, okay? So I often don't see it where people reduce their income because here's my example. You're used to your lifestyle. You want to maintain your lifestyle. You're not going to all of a sudden go from driving a nice car to all of a sudden driving a Pinto from 1987, right? You're not going to downgrade most of these things. At least most people won't. Some people who are really diligent, they have discipline, they have a plan and they're sticking to it. God bless them, and it's there. But that's not the majority. That's not the masses. So what I would encourage you to look at is say, all right, how much do I spend a month? And again, I'm getting back to income planning. How much do you spend a month? And be realistic with yourself. You're probably going to spend, again, if not more in the first couple of years, you'll probably spend the exact same amount because you're still going to go out to eat to the places you do. You're going to still get the quality of food, the quality of clothing, the trips you go on. And again, I joke around often too. It's like you're going to end up getting dragged into the grandkids or the kids that start throwing stuff at, hey, they're retired, they got time. You become a taxi maybe for a year, right? Helping the grandkids. So there's a lot of things that are going to change. But for financial purposes, assume you're going to spend the same unless you have a very specific situation like I pointed out right out of the gate. Hey, my mortgage is getting paid off and it's going to be reduced by $1,700 a month. Okay, that's a real number we can bake in. So just be realistic with yourself is my whole point to that on, again, that spending. And usually what I see, and I've talked about this on inflation, but for 10 years, I'll usually, and I shouldn't say 10 years is a flat number. It's usually 5 to 10 years. I'll see people spend kind of the same amount. And then something happens, right? Medical, lifestyle, moving, snowbirding, moving south, moving north, whatever that looks like for you. But expect those first 2 to 3 years. Sometimes I will see an increase in spending, dust settles, and we kind of fall into a pivot place where, again, we're more routine and more consistent on our spending. So that's the first thing. So the second thing I want to talk about on this chapter, and again, this is fear number 9, chapter 10, one of the most real world that I talk about to get you thinking, The other thing is we don't want to compromise. And the only way you ever have to compromise your retirement is if you didn't plan ahead. Now, I don't expect every single person who's listening and watching this to have all the experience in the world in retirement. Again, you're going to do it one time in your life. You want to have a team of experts around you or one person who's kind of your general, manager. I like to call it the CFO, right? I consider myself, when I work with families, I think of myself as their CFO, their chief financial officer. It's not my job to tell them what to do. It's my job to educate, inform them, help them make important decisions that may or may not, be the right or wrong thing, and just make sure I'm steering them, right? Hey, if you're headed towards a wall, it's probably important I tell you to go right or left and then, give you enough time to make that turn appropriately, right? So don't compromise your plan. Thinking ahead, planning ahead. This starts with budgeting. This starts with those home expenditures. Hey, you want to go to, I just had a family I sat down with the other day. Alex, we want to go to Israel next year. I said, great. How much is it? Well, we're not sure. I said, do me a favor. Go call a couple travel agents up. Go look at some trips that you might book by yourself. Is it a cruise? Is it going around on a cruise ship? Is it going actually there? How long are we thinking? Well, we'd like to go for at least 2 weeks. Okay. So I said, do me a favor. Spend the next week or two. Have some fun. Have some fun with it. Research it. This is a big deal for you. They've been wanting to go to Israel their whole life. And I said, email me back kind of a range. Hey, this is the low end. This is the high end of what we think we'll spend. It's all about making informed choices. I think there's some silly rule for every minute planned, you save 45 minutes of your life. I don't know if that's true or not. Sounds good. I've baked it into my own life. So plan ahead. Trips, home improvements, right? Are we helping the kids? Is there weddings? Is there a house and we're going to have to help them on a down payment? Grandkids, are we going to be helping with college, school, clothes? What's Christmas look like? As silly as it is, as deep down that rabbit hole as you go and you can get some real numbers around and real time frames, it's only going to help your long-term plan. So be proactive. Again, I already said this, but I highly encourage you, if you have these home improvements, whether it's the cottage or it's your house or whatever your situation is, try to get those things done while you're still working so you don't have to come out of pocket of your retirement accounts. Another piece to that is also I would encourage you to have a good emergency fund built up. Maybe your last, and I'm going to totally make this up on the spot. Hey, you've gotten all your home projects out of the, you're retiring in 3 years. So now it's 2 years in, you got 1 year left. You've gotten all your projects done. You updated the roof, you did your bathrooms, you painted the house, you did the deck, you feel great. All while you were working, Wonderful. Maybe that last year, you work your math back, because one of the questions I always ask is, how much money do you need in the bank or savings or emergency or cash on hand to sleep well at night? What gives you peace of mind? Every family's different. I have clients who say, Alex, we need $5,000, $10,000. I have other people say, Alex, we need $70,000 just to sleep at night. There's not a right or wrong. It should all bleed back into your income plan. Your income plan should tell you that. So what I say is, okay, great. Well, how much do we have in there today? And again, let's just say somebody wants, let's just say somebody says, Alex, I want $50,000. I say, okay, great. How much do you have in there today? $35,000, $36,000, $38,000, whatever the number. I say, okay, great. So all that tells me, we're going to pull the calculator up. We're going to do the easy math on it. We need you saving somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,000 to $1,200 a month for the next 12 months before you retire into that checking and savings account. That's going to get us at that 50,000 mark by the time you're there. Great. What are we doing? We're planning ahead. I know I'm beating the dead horse, but plan ahead. The more you plan ahead, the easier it gets. The last thing I want to talk about in this chapter that I think is important is there's kind of 4 stages I talk about in the book directly connected to your retirement. The first stage is approaching your retirement. And again, I've just been hammering this one, planning ahead. Have an income plan, have an investment plan, have a tax plan, have a fun plan. What do I mean by that? What trips are we doing? What hobbies are we getting included with? Who do we want to spend more time with? And again, I always encourage people, go out, have dinner. Have a list, if it's a spouse situation, you as the husband have a list of those things you want to do. Your wife, you guys bring up a topic and make that list and then compare and talk about and have some fun with this. This is a celebration. You've worked your whole life. Now you have an opportunity to do some of these things you want to do. Spend time with people that maybe you haven't been able to, whether it's family, kids, grandkids, friends, siblings, parents. It's a huge part of life. Be intentional. Plan ahead. Have some fun with this thing. It doesn't have to all be number crunching and Excel sheets, right? And one of you saying, oh my God, I hate this stuff. The other one's like, this is how it has to go. Have some fun. So plan ahead. That's stage 1. That's usually, again, further out the better. I'm 40 years old right now. I've been building my plan, obviously, since I got in the business. The last 5 years, though, I make it a routine where me and my wife will sit down every end of December, beginning of January, right around the holidays, and we'll talk. What do we want to do the next year? What do we want to do the next 3 years? Where do we want to be in 5 years? Kind of big picture. And I take that information, I go back, because she doesn't like digging in like I do and building these things. And so I go back and then I build my plan. How much do we need to save a year? Into what investment accounts, right? So I'm doing it. And I started doing that when I was 35 on that big picture, because we started to have kids and, the whole nine. So my point to this is, I don't care if you're a year out from retirement, you've been retired for 5 years, or you're 20 years out. The further back we can start, the better, but do not feel it's ever too late. It's never too late. Water under the bridge is a problem with everybody. I have people who have $10 million and they're always like, oh, I should have done this and I could have done that. I have people who have $100,000 to their name in retirement savings, and they're always saying, oh, I should have done this, I could have done that. You guys, we're all hard on ourselves, okay? Don't worry about the past. Power of now, right? The power of now. You worry about today and what you can do today to make the day the best day. Be intentional about your time and focus on moving forward and taking control, having accountability, discipline to do those things now. So I don't care. Again, I don't care where you're at in your walk. The further we are from retirement, the better, pertaining to how we can plan to be in a better spot. Because again, it's all about intention. If you know, hey, if I told you if you put $100 a week into this account and you die with $2 million, would that be important to know? Yeah. We also have to understand how much you spend, right? And I've talked about this over and over. I'm a broken record. I can't help it. So that stage 1 is so important, planning ahead. I like to see planning ahead start 10 to 5 years away from retirement. It's kind of my sweet spot that I've seen success with. But again, the further out, the better. But don't ever feel it's too late. It's not. It's never too late. You can always do something to improve your situation at any point in your life. Stage 2. this is like the weeks leading up to pulling the trigger. It's getting real. Oh my gosh. Today's July 1st. I'm retiring July 25th, right? I'm just making that up. You got a lot to do there. We're verifying our income plan. We're verifying Social Security estimates if we have or haven't turned them on. We're revisiting the plan. We're making sure that our 401ks and those retirement accounts have the appropriate allocations, and or we're rolling those over to the appropriate accounts based on that plan. You're having fun. What do we want to do? What's the celebration? Is there a party? Are we going on a trip? Is it a dinner with your spouse? Is it a dinner with your kids? So there's always the financial conversation and the fun conversation, but we're really nailing things down, those leading, let's call it 1 week to 4 weeks out from pulling the trigger on being truly retired. And I always encourage people, you don't have to. Everybody's different and wired differently on this one. I don't think it's a bad idea to kind of go in stages pertaining to your work. Like if you were somebody who's been working 60 hours a week, 50 hours a week, like work is life, you love it, you can't help yourself. It's probably not the greatest idea to go cold turkey because you might go a little crazy. Maybe you have a part-time job. Maybe you're scaling back to 2 days a week, right? And you do that for 6 months or a year and kind of work into this thing because there's probably a whole social and emotional component to that job that you haven't even thought about. Leading up to retirement, again, everybody's going to look a little different, but there are things we want to just start screwing in a little bit deeper that week, 2 weeks leading up to our retirement. Stage 3, I call it exploring retirement. You're into retirement, whether it's a year, 3 years, or 10 years, the dust is pretty much settled. And you're just kind of getting used to this new routine. Hey, I'm going to yoga on Friday, and I'm hitting the gym here, and I'm going canoeing, and I got a euchre. I'm from Michigan. We play euchre, right? We don't play spades. I'm in a golf league, right? I go to the garden center on Wednesdays. I have a book club at the library on Friday. I don't know. My point is the dust is settling. You're starting to get into your new routine. You should be seeking out the hobbies you've always wanted to do or new ones that you've always wanted to do. You should be very intentional about scheduling time with people who you do and don't want to see. And you should be very intentional about scheduling those trips throughout the year, whether it's a weekend trip or going somewhere, locally, going camping, having fun, or going on a big trip to Spain or Israel or Greece or Ireland or wherever. Be intentional, plan ahead. So now we're exploring retirement. We're kind of getting into it. And then the fourth stage is, I call it new beginnings. It's interesting. I don't talk about this in the book, but I like to add context in the podcast. So I hope you're enjoying this and getting a little bit more. But when it comes to stage 4 of retirement, I call it new beginnings. It's almost like every 10 years is a new beginning. Your 60s. If you retired in your 60s, it's the go-go years, right? We hear people talk about that. It's the go-go years. You're moving, you're grooving, you're traveling, you're having fun, you're doing hoppies, you're playing pickleball, whatever that looks like. And then the 70s come around. And again, I've seen this with clients and families I work with. I've seen this with my own folks is they start, kind of slowing down a little bit. And this happens differently for everybody. I'm totally generalizing, 60s, 70s, 80s. 60s, we're moving and grooving. 70s, we start slowing down a little bit. And we're still doing things, but maybe not the same capacity. And usually sometimes this is when people start shifting their mindset. And what do I mean? In the 60s, it's all about you. It's all about home base. Hey, I want to make sure I don't run out of money. We need to minimize taxes. We got to make sure the investments are doing everything they can. If your advisor or yourself or whoever that is that's running the financial picture, if they do a good job, your 60s should go really smooth. And then you should start seeing the picture on the wall in the 70s. It might be 71, it might be 75, it might be 78. I don't know. But usually I see it sometime between 73 and 77. The picture is very clear. Okay, we're probably not going to get through what we have. We're probably going to pass away with more than we have. And I watch goals start shifting. Not necessarily take care of home base and worried about running out of money, more about the taxes. And hey, how do we start giving money to these people we care about to help them at these junctures they might need help? And I'm not saying this is everybody, but I'm saying I've noticed this as a trend. So long story short, 60s, go, take care of home base. Let's make sure we have a comfortable plan. 70s, we start slowing down a little bit and our perspective might start looking out to say taxes and gifting and helping others out might be important. That's when legacy planning really speeds up. we really speed up our legacy planning in the 70s. And I usually will tell people, yeah, give or take 75. We're going to start probably revisiting our legacy plan, our estate plan, our gifting plan, if we have one. Every family's different. There's not a right or wrong, but I've seen it actually happen enough to say it's a trend. 80s. The 80s are where I see a lot of changes. Medical gets more real. We really need to have a game plan for our nursing home or, quality care from the house, whatever that looks like, qualified care, excuse me. So that's when it really gets into making sure we have those estate, will, plans concrete. I see people naturally want to reduce their risk a lot. We start using more fixed products, right? Fixed annuities, CDs, money markets, dividend paying stocks or ETFs, safer stuff. We're reducing risk. And, again, the tax planning and making sure that estate planning is buttoned up. Because obviously that's kind of that fourth quarter. And again, everybody's a little different. I've had clients who didn't pass away till 98 and they were rocking and rolling in their 80s, still traveling, having fun. Everybody's different. Those are just kind of some generals. So when I say new beginnings, every 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, if you're fortunate enough to get there, everyone's going to have kind of a different flavor, your perspective. And for the folks who I'm talking to, you know what I'm talking about. I know for me, from 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40, it's all look different. My care, my passions, the way I spent my time, the way my mind worked, the money I made, they've all been totally different. And so you just have to be prepared for that. And again, I cannot say it enough to tell them blue in the face. Planning matters. Plan ahead. Talk to somebody who knows their stuff. This is when I would tell you, if you don't have this, you haven't had these conversations, you're not having quality conversations with a financial professional, reach out. I'm happy to talk to you. This is the stuff I do all day, every day. I love it. I have a phenomenal team around me who allows me to be the best at what I can do. So if you'd like a second opinion, if you'd like an income, investment, tax plan, have a conversation about some of this stuff, I can make it very real to you. And again, I'll send you all the plans. It doesn't cost anything. And oh, by the way, and if you haven't got your free copy of the book, please sign up. We'll get you the copy of the book. But if you'd like to talk to me, I just want to extend that opportunity. I'm biased, right? I'm biased to my own belief system. In my mind, I'll do it better than anybody, right? But I'm sure everybody feels that way. But I want everybody to know it always comes from a good place. And education is the foundation of everything I do. And I'm very passionate about this because of my family story. If you've been walking through this journey with us on the podcast, I got into this, based on watching what happened to my grandparents run out of money. It's changed my perspective, and it's given me an interesting perspective of the good and the bad of this industry pertaining to retirement and financial planning. So I hope you got some good stuff today. But again, I'd say the biggest thing is usually I don't see people spending less money. I like to shoot you straight. Most of the time I see people spend the exact same, if not a little bit more in the first couple of years. Plan on it. Don't, all of a sudden we're going to drop off. We're going to spend 60% of what we were spending now. Probably not. Okay. Again, unless you got a mortgage or student debt or something falling off, that's a real number. I wouldn't bake that into my plan. So again, if you haven't got the book, make sure you sign up. We'll send you one. You can always buy the actual paperback versions as well. If you'd like one from me, I can sign it and do all that fun stuff. But again, if you'd like to set up a time to chat with me, please do so. You can do that on the links here. Get right on my schedule and we can chit chat. So I hope this was helpful. I hope this was informative. And I hope you're enjoying the podcast. Make sure you join us next time. And believe it or not, we're going to be in, we'll be in episode 12, chapter 11, fear number 10, right down the line. So we're getting close to the end. I hope you're getting some good stuff. God bless you and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much.